Nolan Arenado has hit us with the cryptic Instagram post over the Thanksgiving weekend. Is Arenado going to be a Dodger? Tommy Edman's going to be a Dodger for a long time. Some Steven Matz trade rumors. We're back with Dealing the Cards, and we're going to talk about all this and more on this week's episode. Hey, if this is your first time in, I said this week's episode, we actually go twice a week over here at Dealing the Cards on Sundays and typically Wednesdays. I'm back from a long hiatus. I've been activated from the 15-day IL with hamstring tightness. I decided we weren't playing on turf anymore, so I will play today. Shout out to Tyler O'Neill for that reference.
O'Neill, yeah, tummy ache IL stint.
Hey, maybe he's a future Dodger too. There are so many future Dodgers that we just can't talk enough about him because Andrew's just always talking in the chat let's make this a dot. No, I'm just kidding. Hey, all of you in the comment section who are giving Andrew crap about talking to the Dodgers, Sandy and I pushed him to do it last week.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Like, we need to do it, and he said no. And then today I was like, dude, the only thing we can talk about is Dodgers related, so you're gonna have to bear with it. So if you're annoyed about any Dodgers talk today, come at me, come at Sandy. Don't come at Andrew. But I was just enjoying my Sunday, at church, all that fun stuff. And then I see the whole Nolan Arenado Instagram post where he puts Dodger Blue by Kendrick Lamar as the music in there. And instantly everyone's like, Dodger, 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 Dodger. And I feel like we've talked about Nolan trade stuff quite a bit already. I can't remember, honestly, where we all fall on his potential destinations. I know Andrew's been pretty much like, I don't see the Dodger fit. I've usually been like, maybe, maybe not. Can't remember where Sandy's at on it, but like at this point,
I'm probably where you are.
We live in the age of like, it's social media, and I know some people like don't use it this way, and so they don't understand why people freak out. But like we see with pro athletes all the time now, where they'll subtweet things, they'll send little messages out there using their Instagram, their Twitter, they'll like something to be like, oh, I want this person fired, or I want to be traded here. So when you make Dodger Blue the song on a post, like Nolan had to know what he was doing there. They're like, right? Andrew, am I reading too much into this? Is Nolan trying to play games with us here?
No, I think it's fair. But honestly, it seems like just something that he wants, maybe a preferred destination for him. But I don't know if the Dodgers want him, if I'm being honest. And I don't know how much they would give up for Arenado. But yeah, the post did make it seem like, one, he doesn't want to be here anymore. Also, looking at the people who liked it like an hour ago, I think the only Cardinal player I followed who liked it was Tommy Edman. So
add fuel to the fire there.
I don't know. I didn't see any of his other teammates doing that, and I followed.
Stubby Clapp and Ryan Helsley, Mason Wynn, Newt. Okay, so
Mason or Ryan Helsley's also maybe a Dodger too.
That's true, and Newt might be at some point too. So
Newt's a big Dodger.
Let's hope, guys.
Like he's friends with like half their team at this point, and then when they get Roki Sasaki, it's going to be even more. And
it's not encouraging.
Whatever.
Sandy, I mean, when you saw that? Did you think people were overreacting, or were you kind of like, yeah, Nolan's trying to send a message?
Well, I don't know. If Nolan's just trying to send a message, it's so weird to just put that out there and be like, hey, whole world, I only want to be traded to the Dodgers. Like, I don't know. I think if that's the case, that's just like, that kind of sucks. It probably hurts the Cardinals a little bit in terms of like trade discussions with another team. Like, I think there's a great fit for Nolan Arenado with the Yankees, for example. And I think it would really be a bummer if those talks changed because of this type of thing. So that's kind of upsetting. The other thing is, like, does it mean the Cardinals have talked to him about a trade to the Dodgers? Does that would make more sense to me for him to post something like this. But I don't know. It's so hard to draw anything from this. So I'm not really sure where I fall on it. I just think it's kind of weird. I do think there's a decent enough fit with the Dodgers. And at this point, I'm kind of on the just trade Arenado bandwagon. So get him out of here. It's fine with me, I guess, even if he is going to be a Dodger. Just maybe Ryan Helsley doesn't have to be a Dodger too.
Yeah, well, maybe they all go there.
I don't want to see them package Helsley and Arenado, though. I think that's an important point because I feel like that could mute the return for Helsley.
Potentially. I mean, it's so hard because I feel like some people act like Arenado has no value and some are like, we're underrating the value. I mean, who knows? And to your point, I almost called you Sandrew. Sandy. Like, if Arenado is saying, I will only go to the Dodgers, that hurts his trade value a lot. But at the same time, he has a no trade clause. So like he's going to be able to dictate how many suitors are out there. If he's open to 5, 6, 7 destinations, and there's 5, 6, 7 destinations that are all really want him, then the Cardinals will get something. Again, not like a top 100 prospect, but they'll get something in return.
Yeah.
If it's LA or bust, then the Cardinals have to look in the mirror and say, is it worth trading Arenado for cents on the dollar just to get him out of here? And what's the Dodgers' interest? Like, all these things are unknown. I do think there's a couple of silver linings that I think, again, a lot of context clues are important with this stuff. Katie Woo's piece, remember last week, of he's open to moving to first base, which again, with the Dodgers, that doesn't matter here. But at the same time, it shows a willingness that even though he hasn't requested a trade, which has been reported, that he still has not been like, I want to be traded. He's open to being traded. His willingness to flex position shows you, okay, he will make a trade happen, which makes you think, okay, if he wants to go to LA, he will do whatever it takes to get there. And then you have Derek Gould's most recent kind of summary of what he's been hearing, that basically the Cardinals approached Arenado about a trade idea, and like the idea of like, hey, would you like to be traded? They did that with Contreras and Gray too. Both of them said, no, we'd like to stay.
Yeah.
Nato was open to the idea of being traded. So they have been talking to a select group of suitors. We don't know what that means. You don't know who those teams are. Obviously, it's not expansive at this point. Him being willing to play first base opens up the potential opportunities of teams. Like one that I think makes a lot of sense that we can talk about later is the San Diego Padres, which would just be really funny at the Dodgers side of things. But again, he's open to being traded. It sounds like the winter meetings is when the Cardinals expect that to heat up. Katie Woo has put it out there, and Ken Rosenthal has put it out there now that the industry expects him to be moved at this point. So there's all this stuff feeding toward, we thought Nato could be traded. Now it seems it's likely he's going to be traded. Now you have Nato posting on Instagram, Dodgers blue.
Yeah.
Like, it just feels like there's something happening here. I don't think it guarantees the Dodgers, but I think there's too much smoke here for there not to be any kind of fire. Honestly, the big question to me is what Andrew's continuing to come back to is, what is the Dodgers' interest? And I understand they have all the money in the world, but Max Muncy's coming off a pretty good season, and they could use Max Muncy to go trade for something else. Maybe Muncy's a part of this trade. I don't know. Maybe they have all the money in the world. They could have Max Muncy off the bench if they wanted to.
Maybe Heim Bloom trades for Mookie Betts.
Maybe that might be on the table.
Imagine if that happened.
We'll never know.
No, it's not gonna happen.
Insane.
Could you imagine if Bloom was like, though, like, is Mookie available? But maybe Otani's available. I don't know. Hey, Andrew, here, this is in the chat. I feel like people are going to start saying that. I want to hear from you. Do you think there's any chance Bobby Miller could be a part of a deal for Nato? Do you think his value's tanked that far?
I think if the Cardinals ate like most of the salary, they might be able to get something like that. But I don't know if because right now, if you trade that contract to the Dodgers, you probably already have to eat some of it for nothing.
For sure.
But you probably have to eat more of it to get Bobby Miller. Bobby Miller still has like 5 years of control left.
Yeah, he has a lot.
And his tools are like, his stuff is too good to not play at the major league level. He had a lot of weird injury stuff this year. Obviously, he pitched well against the Cardinals in that first start, which was great. But yeah, I don't know. I think he's a name that gets thrown around, I think, a little bit too frequently, just because he had such a bad year. But I feel like Bobby Miller is like the pitcher version of like Jordan Walker, where it's like he's not a bust yet, but like he has too much promise to just be like traded for something like that.
Yeah. I wonder though, like at this point, like they have so much pitching, and I mean, it sounds like people think Roki's not going to LA now, which I still kind of doubt that. But if they end up getting Roki too, it's like they can play around. I mean, the Dodgers are never going to sell, like, just flippantly trade a talent like Bobby Miller, but like if they like Arenado enough, they could be motivated to be like, hey, we can get that contract way down here if we just give a Bobby, and it's worth the risk to us here, and maybe they can get something for Max Muncy in the trade market.
The Cardinals will do that. Because they won't. I don't think they would eat a significant portion of his contract.
Well, okay, so he's due $32 million next year, so it's actually like $27 million, or because of the $5 million off. Then it's 27 the year after, or something like that, and then it's down to 22 because of the Rockies paying it. Even if the Cardinals ate 10 million, 5 million, like if you ate a pretty good portion of that contract gets really low, but it's not like eating as much as the Rockies did or some other teams have eaten on contracts. And the reporting from Gould has been consistent, and Woo, that they want a return. They're not trying to trade Nato just to get the money off the books. That's been denied multiple times by good sourcing of, no, they're not going to just move him to try and move all the money. They're willing to eat money here to make sure they get something in return. And I think they would see Bobby Miller or someone like that. Again, that's just a name, but like as like a real opportunity to get something that they can really help them in the future, right? And if, again, their payroll concerns at the beginning of the offseason was like, hey, are they going to go down to 100 million or under even because of how much uncertainty is? They really recouped a lot of that uncertainty. They're still cutting back payroll because they expect ticket sales to go down. They did take a loss from TV revenue, but they're not expected to. I mean, they're already cut. They've basically already cut what they need to cut. So anything they cut from Nato's deal is icing on the cake here. I think at this point they'd be willing to do that, especially if they're going to potentially move a Steven Matz as well. Ryan Helsley's contract, like they're going to keep like if they eat 10 million of Nato's contract, that's still saving like $20 million off their books this coming year. So I think they've been motivated to eat more money than we think they would in order to get something in return. I don't know though. We'll have to see. Like percent chance right now. Like Sandy, how likely do you think it's Nato to the LA at this point?
It's so hard to put a number on this. I think the one thing is, I don't know. I just still don't know how to value Arenado. I think that's the big thing. And I know we keep hitting on that. And I know I'm going back in time to a previous part of this conversation. But Andrew and I were talking about this on the last episode. And I feel like Cardinals fans are really down on what Arenado's value is. Like if you talk to Cardinals fans, especially really like us, we're talking about it's like, oh, you'd have to eat all this money to get anything back of note. And maybe they should just package him with Helsley. And maybe that still won't bring back anybody real. But then if you see these deals that are getting thrown out there by neutral sources, you know, like I'm seeing they're not Cardinals accounts posting these deals. That's like Arenado for Yason Dominguez. Like obviously the Cardinals are eating some money in that deal, but it's like I would have not.
How did you say that? It's Jason Dominguez.
Jason Dominguez. Whatever. Jason Dominguez.
But it was also Helsley in that deal. But to your point, again,
yeah. But it's like I wouldn't have thought that is in the like realm of outcomes for the Cardinals. For that kind of value. And it's like I'm seeing other things where it's like Arenado with no Helsley attached for something legit coming back. Yeah. And they're not being posted by Cardinals accounts, you know? Because when I see a Cardinals account post something, I'm like, oh yeah, whatever. But when it's a Yankees account saying like, yeah, I'd make that deal. That's really interesting to me. And I think the rest of the league still views Arenado as something valuable. I saw a lot of discussion among Boston fans recently who thought Arenado could be valuable in a trade. And they were talking about moving one of their blue chip prospects in a Helsley Arenado type deal. So I think there's more value than we see. Then again, I don't know. Maybe everyone does think Arenado's cooked. And maybe when they get kind of the exposure to him that we got over the last 2 years and they see, well, bat speed's down, his expected metrics also aren't as good as they were before. Maybe they think, hey, 2022 is an outlier. So I don't know. It's really, really hard to tell for sure. But I guess to go back to your original question, if I had to put a percentage odds that he's a Dodger, probably like 25%. And that still might be kind of generous because I'm not certain he's being traded. And then if he gets traded, I'm not certain he's a Dodger. You know?
The funny thing about this is that Arenado has significant contract deferrals, and it will make everyone else in the baseball world very upset, except for us and the Dodgers.
Well, because also too, like if the Cardinals eat money, then the Dodgers will be paying like $10 million to him next year. While the Cardinals are also paying $10 million, while the Rockies are paying $5 million. Like people are gonna be so upset.
Arenado's getting paid by everybody.
Oh man. It'd be funny if they looped in like a fourth team just for money. So it's like, oh, the White Sox are actually gonna kick in $2 million here, but
the White Sox get Bobby Miller.
And they get Eric Fetty.
And Tommy Edman.
Oh my gosh! Imagine if they attach Eric Fetty to this deal to the Dodgers too, and then Eric Fetty and Tommy Edman are both in LA. But
absolutely,
and then they signed Tommy Pham as their bench.
Oh gosh! Well, I think to your point, Sandy, with all that. Okay, so Nato's defense bounced back. It's still not elite like it used to be. He was a Gold Glove finalist, but it's still inconsistent. It's been a couple years now of the inconsistency. So the teams are probably looking at that and being like, okay, well, we're trying to get if you're viewing Arenado right now, you're seeing him as like a defensive third baseman, but you're not really sure if that defense is going to hold up. I think that's why people are underrating the first base thing because they're like, why would you move there? His only thing that's good right now is defense. Well, I think part of it is like, hey, could he age better as a first baseman and regain the bat back? Like, so I think there's some teams that are interested in the idea of Nato bouncing back offensively. So you look at the Dodgers here and they're like, hey, if we can buy low here, that we can, or if there's other teams around baseball. I do think, to your point, Sandy, earlier, it's like there's a happy medium. He's not Jason Dominguez value. Like that trade that was thrown out there with Ryan Helsley, I think
probably ridiculous.
I think both sides say no, probably more so the Yankees. But I don't think the Cardinals get nothing for Arenado either, assuming they're eating a little bit of money here. And I'm not even talking like the entire contract. I'm saying you eat like 20% of it, 15% of it. I think you get something real.
Because track record matters, right? Like
Yeah,
we have to consider the fact that, yeah, Arenado had a down stretch, right? But also for a decade, he was a 130 OPS plus hitter. Like he's finished in the top 3 in the National League in RBIs, home runs, a number of times, and that still matters to teams.
yeah,
Star power is real. I do think that stuff matters. And I think there are going to be teams that still value that. And they say, hey, if Arenado can be his former self, this could be a steal, even if we give up something of interest, because he's not that old. You
for
could
sure.
still be acquiring a legit star, and you could be getting the Cardinals to pay down some of it, and you're not giving up like your top prospect.
Yep. That's why I think like a team like the San Diego Padres makes a lot of sense, because Nato wouldn't need to be the centerpiece of that team. You have Tatis, you have Merrill, you have Bogarts, you have Machado, you have Luis Ariz, you have all these different bats around him, so you can just kind of blend in. But that's the appeal of the LA thing too, I think, is you're not going to be the number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5 talking point. That's Shohei, that's Freddie Freeman, that's Mookie Betts, that's Otani, that's I already said Otani. I mean, it's because he's a pitcher and a hitter. Yeah. You've got Snell, you've got Yamamoto. Like he can blend in there, and I think the Dodgers may look at it as like, if he goes somewhere else, he might not be that good. But if he comes to us, we're gonna unleash this dude, and we're gonna be unstoppable. So, I think it's like right now they're at the top of my list again. I think they're the most likely. Just this feels weird that he would do that. I think the percent of him getting traded is like 75% now. I'd probably put the Dodgers number 1, even though it makes a weird sense fit wise with other teams being there. Andrew, where would you put this percentage wise? And then we can move topics here.
I would say probably like 15%. Like I'm more convinced now that he'll go to the Dodgers, but I just don't see the fit at all. And like, unless like, cause Betts is supposed to move to second. Tommy Edman's there long term, which we're going to talk about. So it doesn't really make sense. Like they seem to have too many infielders to justify any of this. Like Freddie Freeman's not going to go anywhere. Nobody's going to DH. Third base seems closed for the most part, unless they move Muncy, which would be odd to me that they would. Like the order of operations either way is odd. Like if they were to trade Muncy first and then acquire Arenado, that would be weird. Like the fans wouldn't enjoy that. They would be like, why do we just trade Muncy? If they acquired Arenado, then Muncy's trade value becomes very, very low because everyone knows that he's probably going to be moved. So that doesn't make sense to me either. I mean, if Arenado wants to try to play the outfield, then maybe, but
no,
that would be pretty terrible because I don't want to see that. But hey, maybe right. Like Wilson Contreras tried to do that for like a week, and how did that go for him? But
hey, we all forget he played outfield in Chicago.
Yeah, no, I hate when people talk about that. Also, did Wilson even like get into the outfield with the Cardinals at all? No, he did not.
They walked it back. They literally walked it back less than 24 hours
because there was all this pressure, and it was so funny because he'd done it with the Cubs, and no one cared about it then.
Yeah. Well,
anyways,
I don't know. I just don't see that fit. But there's another team out there, I'm sure, that needs a third baseman.
Yeah,
I still think the first base thing is really weird, but I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure because the winter meetings are a week away, we'll probably be talking about this more over the rest of the week. So we'll talk non-Dodgers, Nato stuff at some point too. But we do want to thank a couple of the sponsors of our podcast, including one of our newest partnerships, which is Underdog Sports, our favorite place to play fantasy games. You've got to check out Pick'em. It's so easy to play. You can pick 2 to 8 stats of your favorite players and choose whether they go higher or lower. And you can earn 20 times your money by going 5 for 5 on picks. You can turn. Sounds like fun. Sign up using our promo code CARDS, CARDS, to claim your first free pick, and you get a first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. We can't wait to see your entries. We posted one for me for Thanksgiving for Bears Lions. I got all three picks right. I know Sandy's been doing well so far. There is a huge game this afternoon between the Eagles and the Ravens. So if you're watching live now, I think we have a really good pick to give you for this one. So Sandy, what's one matchup you're looking at here?
I'm looking at Derrick Henry scoring an anytime touchdown tonight. I think the Ravens are going to be competitive. The offensive line is really great. Derrick Henry scored a lot this year. There's a pick 'em for either an anytime receiving or rushing touchdown, but you have slightly better odds if you go just rushing touchdown. And I think he's going to score one tonight. So I feel really good about loading that up for me tonight.
Yeah, and I'll add the Saquon Barkley, same thing, anytime touchdown as well. You could do just rushing touchdown, but I'll add both just to save you a little bit there in case he gets a reception instead. And then if you want to make it a 3 pick 'em here, Jalen Hurts, the higher or lower for passing yards right now is 227.5 yards. The Ravens are the worst passing defense in all of football right now. They have AJ Brown, they have Dallas Goedert, Devontae Smith, Saquon Barkley. I think Hurts is going to hit the over there, and I think it's pretty easy to see Saquon going higher in rushing touchdowns than 0. Same with Derrick Henry. Combine those 3 using our promo code cards. You get a free pick here, and then you can also again up to $1,000 in bonus cash for your first entry as well. So go over to Underdog Fantasy, use our promo code cards. Let us know if you do a pick 'em this week, and we hope you do well with this. Also on the football front, thank you for Eberflus being gone. Bears fans everywhere.
Season's already cooked.
Hey, it's okay. We're on to 2025. Hey, another sponsor of the podcast we always want to thank is our presenting sponsor, and that's 314 Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're located at 9640 Olive Boulevard and all that. They're open 10 to 5 Monday through Friday, 9 to 4 on Saturday. They buy, sell, and trade all sports cards and Pokemon cards and have the newest selections of packs, boxes, and single cards of local players and stars from around the league. I know they've done some pretty good Black Friday deals this weekend. Andrew, are they still running those promos right now?
I don't know. I was in there on Friday. I picked up a couple cards for myself. I picked up a Shelby Miller for Josh that I'll give you at Blogger.
One of these days.
No, at charity stream. Charity day, yeah. But they do have well, I don't know if they didn't have it when I was there, but there's always Topps Chrome update, and the Paul Skeens patch has not been pulled yet. So if you pull it from 314, let us know we sent you, or let them know we sent you. Josh, what would you do if you pulled that? We talked about it the other day.
I think I would just sell it instead because I don't care about the Pirates stuff as much. So like I don't want a ticket to one of their games. So I think I would just negotiate with them and say you can pay me for it. I don't want this other stuff. But so
the softball game thing would
you don't want to sit with Livy Dunn in her private suite.
I'm good.
Okay.
Thanks for the offer.
Jackson Holiday or Matt Holiday is actually really interested in getting Jackson Holiday's patch. So what would you do if you got that one?
Wait, what was that?
Matt Holiday wants his son's patch.
Oh, interesting.
And that one hasn't surfaced either.
That one's different. Meeting Matt Holiday would be pretty cool. But
yeah, I would say Matt Holiday has to come join the Cardinals coaching staff.
Hey, he's a family man. No, we'll get him on the podcast. That's
that'd
we
be
get
good.
Paul Skeet. We'll have be like, Paul, we want you and Mason Wynn on the podcast together to talk about how Mason should have won Rookie of the Year over you, even though no one actually thinks that. But
what about Matt Holiday recurring guest spot on the podcast?
Talk about
a weekly spot.
Yeah.
All right, I think we got it. All right, hey, help us rip some packs.
So player in college, by the way. That's all I'm going to say. At Air Force.
Oh, great. Good for Skeens.
He won a home run derby, I think, in college. So,
oh man. Okay, let's continue the conversation on. So again, let's pivot away from Dodgers real quick, and we'll come back to it at the very end. Just so we can get a little bit of a breather from the Dodgers world we all live in right now. Again,
it's not my fault.
It's not your fault
against this.
It's not news that the Cardinals are shopping Steven Matz, but I think it's notable that his name was specifically name dropped again with Ryan Helsley by Derek Gould this past week as someone they're fielding offers on. Again, it's not that they're not open to moving Mike Lisage. That's just a harder situation. I think there's some questions in here, even in our chat right now from Keegan, but also I think just in general, there's a wondering about like, if you're trading Steven Matz, or is this an eating money situation to get nothing in return? Is this you send him full contract, get nothing in return? Is this you can eat money and get something real in return? Like, what is the trade value of a Steven Matz? Because I do think he's appealing. I think most people would agree that someone's going to want Steven Matz. But what can you actually realistically expect if you're the Cardinals in a deal? Again, there's other names out there, but Sandy, what do you think the trade value is of Steven Matz?
I think Steven Matz has real value, and I think it's the same argument actually that Jens is making here for Arenado. I'm going to throw this up here. I'm going to explain my logic here. So he's talking about how Arenado essentially could be like $45 million for 3 years of a solid third baseman. The argument is that that's a better deal than you would find on the free agent market with another option like Bregman. And I think that's what you get with Steven Matz. Steven Matz, it's 1 year remaining, about $11.5 or $12 million, if I'm correct. That's not that bad at all. That's actually a really reasonable deal for a guy of his caliber. Someone who's a fairly strong pitcher when healthy. Obviously, you're betting on health, but there's a ton of pitchers that do that kind of thing, right? Like Walker Buehler is a good example of that kind of guy who you're wondering about his health. You don't really know what you're going to get from him this year, but he's probably pitched his way into a multi-year deal with a strong postseason. Like at Steven Matz's recent peak, he's about as good as Walker Buehler was this year, better than Buehler was at times this year. There are other guys like that hit the market too. Frankie Montas comes to mind as a bounce back candidate. So my argument is if Steven Matz was a free agent, I think he would get paid about this much, if not more. And I don't think he'd get a multi-year offer, but that's fine because this is only 1 year of a contract. So I think it's better than what you get on the open market. Therefore, there's surplus value. And the Cardinals could either trade the full contract and get nothing or like a lottery ticket, or eat some money, pay it down, and get something real back. But I do think there's real value. He is tradable. The people that are calling this contract one of the worst in the division or an albatross, I don't think that's an educated take.
Yeah. I think you made a great point there about it's a 1-year deal. And so it's different when you have an injury prone guy and you have multiple years
Correct.
ahead of you that you're kind of committing to. When you're committing to a 1-year deal, it's like, I mean, you commit to any player, even if they're not injury prone. It's like Kyle Gibson, Lance Lynn could have had an injury in spring training. It's like, well, you just threw away that year. But like, there's just a different level of risk there. And so I completely agree with you, Sandy. If they're just moving all of the money, I think you're getting an outside their top 30 prospect type of player. Like it's going to be nothing. Or you eat money down, you get it down to like 7 million, 6 million, something like that, where it's like well below market value. And then you can get something in return, like the 12th ranked prospect or something like that in someone's system, or it's like, hey, like, does that person pan out? Who knows? But the Cardinals save some money off their books. They got opportunities from McGreevy, Robersa, guys like that. And maybe this prospect works out. Andrew, do you agree with that take about Matz having like some kind of value compared? Because I saw people throwing him out like that typical meme of like it's the radio or the record player on the road, and it's like broken but could be fun, or does not work but could be fun. And like they're saying Steven Matz, I'm like, I think it's more value than that.
Yeah, I don't know. Steven Matz for me right now is like a long man / fifth starter for any team pretty much, unless you're like the A's or the White Sox. Like,
I think a healthy Steven Matz is breaking into rotations.
Yeah, like I think that's fair. But like
that's
you just don't know what you're gonna get. Yeah. The upside is probably like a fourth or third starter on like a weak team, and a fourth starter on like a decent team, and like a fifth starter on most teams, and DFA'd on the Dodgers because they have 7 arms.
Steven Matz has a 3.75 FIP over the last 4 seasons.
Yeah, but he's pitched he's made like 20 starts in those 3 seasons.
Sure. But like when he's on the field, he's a viable pitcher. I think that's the big thing here.
Yeah, that's fair. You're just banking on him to be like, you know what? I always throw this team out there because I think they're funny. I think the Angels could take a flyer on Steven Matz. They could add to their rotation. He could probably be in there. Like they're taking everyone's rejects at this point, but like they probably wouldn't give you much in return. I think if you ate a little bit, you could probably get like a Lane Thomas, not Lane Thomas, but like a Lane Thomas type player that could eventually pan out. I think he's better than Lester. I think he's making less than Lester. Was that, or maybe the same? I don't know. I don't know how much Lester was making back in 2021, but probably something similar to that, like a prospect that might be good one day, but like maybe like a Lucan Baker kind of player who could fit into a retooling team and maybe could stick, or just maybe a guy that's on the bench at best and like DFA'd in a couple of years. But I don't think that's a bad return for Steven Matz, honestly. But I think the Cardinals should just keep Matz and trade Fetty instead. But
trade them all.
Well, yeah, but then you have to like sign guys. Like you have to sign guys to fill those starts.
Hey, if you're keeping Matz and you're like relying on him to be healthy, we've seen how that goes for the Cardinals. I think if you trade Fetty and you keep Matz, you might have to sign someone anyway. So just trade Matz too.
Like you're gonna get something for Fetty. You're not gonna get much for Matz, I think.
Yeah, you'll get way more for Fetty.
Yeah, definitely much more for Fetty. He's cheaper and better.
Yeah,
because like Lane Thomas hit a grand slam in the playoffs, but like he wasn't that good this year. Like he was like a league average player.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so like even if you traded both Matz and Fetty, you still have Gray, Palante, Michaelis, And then you can get McGreevy in there for sure. And then you have Robersa. Well, I was about to say Kloffenstein, but that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
You have Graceffo, Liberatore. It really seems like the Cardinals are not giving up on the Liberatore thing. If you read Derek Gould's chats, if you read some of his stuff about Liberatore, he consistently says that like the Cardinals and the rest of baseball understand how a guy that throws like that as a lefty could be a very valuable starter. And so it seems like they're going to at least give him a chance to earn a rotation spot again, especially if you're like they want to be competitive next year, but they also want to get young players opportunities. So I think having at least one rotation spot open to be won right now is important. 2 is risky because again, someone's going to get hurt at some point. And so I don't know if they have like 4 young arms you can actually rely on. I think the key is figuring out which of those young arms you actually can, right? Like, is it Robersa? Is it Graceffo? Is it McGreevy? Is it Tink already? Is it Quinn Matthews already? Is it Bedell? Like, just like all these Liberatore, Thompson, like who are the arms you can actually throw in there? And again, they're open to the Kyle Gibson thing. So I don't know. Maybe they move the uncertainty of Matz and bring back Gibson. So it's like, okay, we're pretty sure this guy's going to give us 30 starts. Got an open rotation spot here. We can always DFA Michaelis if we need to make room for Quinn Matthews. I don't know. So I think you move Matz, I think to your, like, they should be prioritizing moving Fetty. And I do not understand why they're keeping him right now. It does not make sense to me.
No,
I haven't heard anything about Fetty. I think they're keeping him.
Yeah, and that's why it doesn't make any sense to me in a retool year.
It's idiotic. The surplus value is huge for Eric Fetty. Like, you could get a lot back for him.
Like Tommy Edman.
Oh, great.
What a
moratorium
segue
on this deal. This will be fun.
Well, you also have to throw
Los Angeles deferrals had extended Tommy Edman to a 5-year. Was it 74?
Unlimited money is what it is. It's just unlimited. They're getting Soto. Andrew thinks they're not. They're totally getting Soto. The money's unlimited. There's no end.
If they get Soto, it's not because they paid him more. It's because Soto just wanted to be a Dodger and was willing to take a massive pay cut.
Unlimited.
Like, I don't see them. I don't know. This seems like a bit of like they did defer like a third of it, to be fair. So like, it's not actually $75 million, but I don't know. I feel like this might be a little bit of an overpay. Maybe.
I don't know. I think to Kareem's point, I think he could have gotten a little more in the open market, especially because of the deferrals too, because you're sending present day money to the future, which is always less valuable.
You're telling me that Tommy Edman is a $15 million a year player?
He is now, but he's like in like 5 years, he probably won't be, right?
Well, but that's all free agency.
Are you telling me Tommy Edman couldn't have gotten something like 3 for 57 though?
Yeah, but like, I mean,
3 for 57 versus this 5 for 75.
Actually, I don't know if Tommy Edman's a $20 million player because like he was very like average in the regular season this year, and he played like 30 games.
Well, it's because he was hurt.
Well, yeah, I know. Like, he was very average.
So much value. Like Tommy Edman racks up value in every way. Also, he can play like Gold Glove level shortstop. Basically, he's one of the best second basemen I've watched. He's a really good center fielder. He can play in the corner spots. He can play third. If you needed him to, I'm sure he could play first for some reason. He's amazing. Hey,
we got a new member, Cornelio. Big fan. We
that.
Appreciate you a lot. We always see you in our chats and our live streams and stuff, so really appreciate that. I do. I think he could have got more, but I don't know if more doesn't necessarily mean a $20 million player either. Like, he got 14.5 million AAV. I think he can have gotten 17, something like that. And again, over 5 years, that's like another 20 million.
That's why I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like 3 for 19 a year. Like, I think if you went shorter AAV, he could have gotten a little more money.
Or even a longer. Even that AAV, I think he could have gotten 16, 17 million. So I mean, again, we're splitting hairs here, but I mean that stuff matters.
Maybe I'm still a little bit biased from just like being so frustrated with Tommy Edman.
And
like
I get that.
I asked Mo at the thing, and he was like, "Yeah, he'll be ready by mid-July." And mid-July comes around, and he's still on the IL, and I'm like, "Okay, thanks, Mo." Appreciate that.
He wasn't going to suit up for the Cardinals.
It just, but he might.
Seriously, good for Tommy though.
Yeah, very happy to see.
Yeah, no, that's good.
He's a great fit with the Dodgers. They've always valued utility. Again, like you go to Chris Taylor.
Look how the Chris Taylor extension is playing out now.
Yeah, I think in the moment that looked bad though to me, but again, we'll see how it works out. I mean, because Chris Taylor, he's always versatile, but I don't know if I'd call him like a great defender. I just think he could play a lot of positions. He was more the bat. Tommy's a great defensive player wherever you put him. And then he's especially against left-handed pitching, he's great. Again, great fit for the Dodgers. Good for them. Here's the question, though. Does this whole Tommy Edman situation doesn't play for you? You get to flip him to the Eric Fetty. Eric Fetty was fine for you. Tommy goes on, wins NLCS MVP, wins the World Series with the Dodgers, gets this huge extension. Is this an indictment on Mo? Is this an indictment on the front office for making that Fetty deal? Or is that too much? Is that too much? Or, well, I think it's possible to say in the moment it was a good deal, but things don't work out and end up being a bad deal. I think it's fair if you have that take. But is it fair for fans to look back, especially ones who like the deal in the moment, like myself, and say there was a fail by Mo? Or do you think that's an overreaction? Because I think we're seeing a lot of those takes right now.
I think it's an overreaction.
Andrew?
I mean, I was going back and like you said, you wanted a tribute thing on Twitter. So I was like, I was looking for clips of you like saying bad things. So like one of the ones that I found was you saying that the Cardinals gave up absolutely nothing for Eric Fetty and we fleeced the White Sox. So, I mean, I don't have that here for you guys, but
maybe I don't want a tribute video.
Yeah, no, I don't think you do. I really don't think you do. But I mean, I wrote about this recently. I think it's fair to evaluate trades differently after the trade has like gone down a little bit. I don't think it's like a horrible trade by Mo, but I don't think it's like this masterclass. I definitely think he did not win the trade. I think the White Sox lost the trade. They didn't really get much of anything back. Like Miguel Vargas was bad for them, and they probably got a couple. They got a couple other guys from the Dodgers system who probably aren't going to be that good. But it's really frustrating that this all happened right now. But whatever. Like I'm happy for Tommy Edman. I don't know. I don't think the Cardinals would have done any better with him, and they probably would be looking to trade him now anyway.
Yeah.
Even if he had been like they wouldn't be signing him to this extension. There's just not something that would happen if he was the Cardinals. He wouldn't have like gotten any national attention. He probably would still have very similar value to what he had at the trade deadline.
Yeah, that's interesting. Sandy, what about you?
Yeah, let me ask this question actually. Do you think so if Tommy Edman had stayed with the Cardinals, would he have started playing when he started playing, number one? Do you think there was a chance that with the team sort of out of contention, they might have just let him rest? Second thing, Tommy Edman accrued most of this value in the postseason.
Yeah.
He wasn't going to get a postseason.
He wasn't going to get a postseason shot here.
He wasn't going to get a postseason shot here. So I think had Tommy Edman not played in the postseason,
we would be talking about this.
We would not be talking about him.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't have gotten this massive deal right now.
No.
I don't know if I agree.
I think
you think he would have made the playoffs with Tommy Edman?
No, but I think if say the Cardinals traded Tommy Edman to the Dodgers this offseason, I think they make the signing because in the reporting of
they've wanted him forever.
The Dodgers athletic guy. And it's been trickled in chats locally here for a long time for Woo, Gold, all that stuff. Like the Dodgers have wanted Tommy Edman for a long time.
Yes.
And then they finally got their hands on him. And then they got a taste of it and we're like, we want him around long term. So, I mean, does the exact number work out and stuff like this? I mean, maybe not. And
okay,
yeah, sure. If he doesn't have the playoff heroics, it seems different because it's like, okay, wow, the Dodgers just extended this guy who missed half the season, played a month and a half with the Cardinals and was fine. Like, I agree. The optics are different, but I think the Dodgers value him the same.
I think the return value is lower.
Oh, then, well, I mean, I don't know how it gets lower than you didn't play at all. Like, because when they traded him,
yeah,
they traded. I mean, the Cardinals put Ciani back in even when they were out of it, and Victor Scott should have been playing. So I think they would have put Tommy in to build up trade value.
Sure. I don't know. I don't think I think Eric Fetty was good value for Tommy Edman at the time.
But I think that's just because
agreed. Yeah, but I don't think his value got lower or would have been lower if they traded him later.
No. I don't think his perceived value would have been lower. I'm just saying I don't think the Cardinals would have gotten back assets that total Eric Fetty.
No, actually, no, I agree because in theory, the Dodgers still paid for the control that they had this year.
Yeah. Correct. And also, again, I think the prospects that the White Sox got back are not as good as Eric Fetty. And that's what I think.
Well, agree with all that.
Yeah. So even that prospect package, even if it was the same prospect package the White Sox got, wouldn't have done it for me.
Yeah. I think the frustrating part, this is where Mosaic can redeem this is you got to go flip Fetty. Because the point of getting Fetty and that surplus value you got for him is that you're going to make a run in the second half. You've messed up. Your offense fluttered again. You missed the playoffs. So you've already wasted that value you had from him. If you go flip Fetty now for more future value that could pan out, then I think the trade makes sense. If they hold on to Fetty for this weird retool year, then they have to make the playoffs and be a competitive team for it to have made sense. Otherwise, you just trade Tommy Edman for like, cool, a valuable asset in Fetty, but he like, what did he do for you in the grand scheme of things? He pitched for a losing team in the second half, and he pitched for a retooling team in 2026 or 2025. It's like, cool. Like, you wasted that Tommy Edman asset then. So I think at this point, the only way for Mo to redeem it, where it's like, hey, all around, I can't blame you, man, was you flip Fetty later. If you don't flip Fetty, then I think this does look like a little bit of a train wreck. But I don't think it's fair to go retroactively look at this deal and be like, Mo messed up making this trade. And I don't think Tommy Edman has done enough to blow up elsewhere to be like, oh, you messed up. Because I don't think this is Sandy Alcantara, Zach Gallen. I think this is Tommy Edman being Tommy Edman, who we knew he was. The Cardinals do have a long-term future at shortstop in Mason Wynn. They do have third base and second base kind of figured out long-term. And I don't think you want Tommy Edman as your third baseman. I think that's kind of wasting him. In theory, at some point, you should have center field figured out. So, like, I get why long-term you weren't going to extend a guy like Edman if you're St. Louis. I understand why the Dodgers want him. I mean, we've podcasted together for over a year now. Like, you guys know that Tommy Edman was a guy I always was like, it would make sense to trade him. It would make sense to trade him. Now you got to trade that Fetty asset, or I think this all blows up on you.
Yeah, I agree with that. If you just hold Eric Fetty and you get nothing out of him for the next year besides like decent production, which doesn't really matter for a team that needs to give young guys shots anyway. Yeah, I agree. But I think if they flip Fetty for valuable prospects, it's like, hey, it's fine. It's probably pretty similar to the package you would have gotten for Edman anyway, if not better, because he's a pitcher.
See, I guess this point from Jens, I'm like, I could see, but I don't know if I fully agree with his holding on to Fetty because it helps stabilize the rotation, but also you could potentially get a good return from at the deadline. That's true, but you also risk the fact that he could get injured or he could be bad in the first half.
He could be bad.
And so I think right now, you know what you have value-wise, and other teams are going to want it. And again, they look at, okay, I could pay Kyle Gibson $14 million, or I could get Eric Fetty for $7.5 million. I'm going to trade for Eric Fetty. And then you get something in return that's real. Again, the potential reward there is potentially higher because, sure, he could have a great first half and be available at the deadline. But, like, again, like, okay, so the Cardinals gave up Tommy Edman to get him at the deadline. Like, and he had a great first half and another year of control. So, like, and it was a bad pitching market, right? Like, there weren't big name starters to be available. So, like, I don't know if the pitching market at the next year's deadline is going to be bare enough where Eric Fetty is going to get you a huge return compared to this offseason.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. We'll have to see. Any other lasting thoughts on that?
Nothing really comes to mind with this. I don't know. I don't like when people rewrite history with trades. Like, it was probably a pretty good deal at the time.
Like, we all like the Ozuna trade. I think everyone liked the Ozuna trade, and now, like, I feel like it's fair to critique that. I don't know.
Yeah, there are some. You're right about that.
Yeah,
that's fair. But like this kind of trade where I think like Tommy Edman's a good player in LA, but it's not like a superstar trade. You didn't trade a future Cy Young, and the value here is still comparable. Yeah. It's not like they got
because he's winning World Series out there, and like,
yeah, that's true.
That's why the attention's on him, and you just trade these guys to better teams, and it's like, well,
yeah,
I don't know.
Well, also when you operate on a different payroll like the Dodgers, like to them, $14.5 million for a guy that they can move anywhere they want is worth it, because it's like now, like, I don't know, maybe 3 off seasons from now, there's an incredible second baseman that's available in free agency, and Tommy's playing second base for them. It's like, oh, we can move him to center field, it'll be fine. Or he's playing center field for them. There's an incredible center fielder out there. They can go get him and move Tommy. Like, that kind of versatility matters a ton for a team that has a guy like Ohtani that is not versatile. Freddie Freeman, who's not versatile. Like Mookie Betts is versatile. It helps them out a ton. I think like they will pay up for that kind of stuff. In the way the Cardinals, I don't think they can afford to pay up for that kind of stuff if they're gonna operate in the kind of payroll they're operating on.
This guy just said Ohtani's not versatile when he lets the team carry an extra reliever.
All right, I meant positionally, dude. Okay. Oh gosh. Anyways, well, we always appreciate you guys tuning in. Again, winter meetings are next week, so we'll definitely be talking more about that. And then hopefully there's some news on Helsley and Arenado and anything else the Cardinals are doing by then. Again, make sure to go check out Underdog Fantasy. And especially if you haven't done Pick'em already, use our code CARDS. Again, the Ravens-Eagles game hasn't started yet. Saquon a higher Saquon, higher Henry on touchdowns, and higher passing yards to Jalen Hurts. Seems like a really good pick 'em for this one. So you use our cards for free bets and then also bonus cash up to $1,000 over there. We always want to thank Through and Four Sports Cards and Collectibles for their partnership. And like and subscribe. It helps the channel out a ton. We'll be back on Wednesday. We'll see you guys next time.